Imagine there is a book you cannot destroy. It has been exorcised, burned, sealed, and thrown to the bottom of the sea. But it always finds a way to return. A book that whispers when you're alone, that calls your name in your dreams, that responds to your fears by writing itself. This is not a legend, not fiction. It's real, and its story has left behind a trail of madness, death, and disappearances over the centuries. This is not just a cursed object. It is living proof that there are things we were never meant to know. Today, you're going to discover the forbidden legacy of the most feared grimoire in human history, the Book of Saint Cyprian. And if you liked this, stay until the end of the video, because I'm going to tell you the story of Brother Bernardo, a man who found the grimoire in Galicia, sealed it with his own blood, and never slept peacefully again. We will also delve into the history of the Ravenscroft family and how buying a mansion became their worst nightmare. The sorcerer who became a saint. Cyprian was born in the 3rd century in Antioch, but what most people don't know is that he wasn't Christian from the start. Before becoming a bishop and martyr of the church, Cyprian was a powerful sorcerer. He traveled through Egypt, Persia, and India. He studied Chaldean astrology, Babylonian incantations, and the mysteries of Eleusis. He wasn't looking for faith, he sought absolute power. But this quest was not innocent. It wasn't spiritual. Cyprian wasn't seeking enlightenment. He wanted to control the invisible forces of the universe. And when he returned to Antioch, he was no longer just a scholar. He was a sorcerer, a warlock, a man who no longer feared death because he claimed to have seen what lies beyond. He quickly attracted followers, not religious, not philosophers, but disillusioned, marginalized men and women, broken by the world, people willing to give up their soul for a fragment of power. He founded a secret circle whose members performed nocturnal rituals in the city's catacombs. But the most disturbing thing wasn't the rituals. It was the book, the grimoire. It wasn't written all at once. They say it began to take shape on its own, as if Cyprian was merely transcribing it from another dimension. The exact origin of the grimoire is unclear. Some believe Cyprian didn't create it, he was chosen by it, that the book already existed on another plane, waiting for a receiver capable of understanding it, and above all, obeying it. Whatever the case, the result was the same: a cursed text that cannot be destroyed, a book that, ever since, has sown death, madness, and mystery wherever it has gone. The Forbidden Grimoire. We don't know exactly when it was written, but the oldest fragments of the Book of Saint Cyprian date back to the 4th century. It wasn't just a compilation of spells. It wasn't a manual of magic or a guide for the restless soul. It was an artifact, a conduit between this world and something else, something even Cyprian couldn't fully understand. Its cover, according to the oldest accounts, was made of human skin hardened with myrrh resin and dried blood. Some later editions, found in the 17th century, had a spine wrapped in rusty chains and engravings in a mix of angelic script and demonic writing. The inner pages were written in a combination of ecclesiastical Latin, ancient Hebrew, classical Greek, and fragments of what some experts believe to be Proto-Sumerian. But the most disturbing part wasn't the language, it was the structure. The grimoire has no chapters, no index, no apparent order. Each reader finds something different. Each page seems to respond to the intention of whoever holds it. 19th century researchers who dared to study it under controlled conditions claimed the book was like a mirror, one that didn't reflect your face, but your darkest desires. The Catholic Church banned any mention of the book starting from the Council of Toledo in the 6th century, calling it an instrument of irreversible spiritual corruption. Even so, fragments appeared in the private collections of cardinals, Italian alchemists, and French nobles obsessed with eternal life. The price of reading. The first records of victims appear in the 6th century. In the monasteries of Gaul, mass suicides, mysterious disappearances, and an inexplicable outbreak of collective madness were documented. The few who have survived even a single page agree on one thing: the Grimoire thinks, and it answers. It's not a dead text, it's a psychic link. A young professor of symbology in Berlin accessed a leaked digital version of one of the Grimoire's pages in 1999. Hours later, she wrote in her personal blog, "They're not symbols, they're commands. When you look at them, they look back. I hear whispers in my house, even though I live alone. I wake up with symbols written on my arm that disappear at dawn. Last night, someone else was breathing behind me. She took her own life 2 weeks later." The file containing the image of the page, according to the server, deleted itself. Many have tried to destroy the book, burn it, sink it, dissolve it in acid. All failed. The reason, according to certain esoteric traditions, is that the book doesn't belong to this plane of existence. It is here only partially. Its essence is anchored in another level, a reality where physical laws don't apply. Thus, destroying it here is like breaking a reflection in water. The real object remains intact. Monk Bernardo and the Secret of Galicia. Galicia, 1580. A region cloaked in mist, superstition, and secrets passed down through generations of shepherds, witches, and saints. On a hill forgotten by time, surrounded by withered trees and paths no one dared travel at night, stood the monastery of San Aldemero, a refuge of faith, or so it was believed. Bernardo of Compostela was a man of conviction, a dedicated Franciscan, educated and respected by his brothers. He didn't believe in witch stories or rural curses. To him, anything not from the gospel was mere peasant ignorance, until he found it. One November night, while inspecting the tunnels beneath the monastery crypt, he found a loose stone in the floor. Upon moving it, he revealed a hidden chamber. And at its center, resting on a pedestal covered in cloth blackened by humidity and centuries, lay a book. But it wasn't an ordinary book. It had rusty chains wrapped around it. Illegible symbols were branded into its cover. And a presence, something intangible but real, made the air grow heavier with each step he took. Against all common sense, Bernardo touched it. He unchained it and opened it. The monastery was never the same again. Days later, Bernardo began to behave strangely. He whispered to himself, disappeared for hours into the tunnels. He wrote phrases in unknown languages, then burned them before anyone could read them. Then the phenomena began. Doors opened by themselves. Stained glass windows vibrated without wind. Statues changed position from one day to the next. Animals abandoned the area. The trees around the monastery withered, and the monks all began to have the same dream, night after night. A hooded figure, faceless, showing them a book burning with black flames. Terrified, Bernardo tried to get rid of the grimoire. First, he threw it into the river. It reappeared in his cell. Then he buried it beneath the chapel's altar. The next day, the altar was destroyed. The book was there, waiting for him. Finally, he threw it into the fire. The flames went out instantly. The grimoire remained intact. That's when he understood the truth. He couldn't destroy it, only hide it. Desperate, Bernardo used all his religious and alchemical knowledge. With sacred symbols, blessed salt, and the remains of a 12th century crucifix, he built a small, sealed chamber deep within the tunnel. There he left the book, chained, locked away, but the damage was already done. The curse had already seeped into the walls. One by one, the monks fell. Some went mad and fled into the woods. Others died suddenly in their beds, faces frozen in pure terror. After Bernardo's death, the monastery was abandoned. The church declared it structurally unsound. Locals avoided it for generations. They said if you got too close, you could hear chants no one sang, bells ringing without ropes, and whispers calling your name. No one ever returned to retrieve the grimoire, or at least no one who ever came back to tell the tale. But the book is still there, sleeping, waiting, hidden beneath stone and prayer, but not contained. Because, as Bernardo learned too late, the Book of Saint Cyprian doesn't need you to find it, it finds you. The Ravenscroft Mansion, home of the shadow, year 1872, in the cold fields of northern England near Yorkshire, a grand Victorian mansion was purchased by a distinguished family of the British high society, the Ravenscrofts. What they didn't know was that the house hid more than old hallways and Gothic windows. A Ravenscroft family consisted of the patriarch, Lord Alistair, a rational, industrial, and skeptical man, his wife, Lady Margaret, an occult enthusiast with an almost obsessive interest in life after death, and their 3 children, Edward, the eldest, quiet and introverted, Helen, the middle child, artistically sensitive, and Thomas, the youngest, a 7-year-old boy with a vivid imagination. A day they moved in, the sun barely touched the property. A thick fog surrounded the estate. The locals would cross themselves when passing by, avoiding direct glances at the windows. The first night brought the unexpected. The clock stopped at exactly 3:17 a.m. The mirrors in the house began to fog from the inside, even though there was no heat. And Thomas, the child, woke up crying, saying he had seen the faceless man on the stairs. Alistair, as always, dismissed it all, but Margaret took notes. With each passing day, the events intensified. Helen began painting compulsively. Her canvases, which once depicted fields and flowers, now portrayed sealed doors, floating eyes, and dark figures with unnaturally long hands. Lady Margaret found one of her journals open with a message she didn't remember writing. "He is already awake. The book whispers to him through the walls." And one night, while Alistair was inspecting the attic, he found an object wrapped in moldy cloths, hidden behind a false wall. It was a book, the Grimoire. From the moment Alistair touched it, the mansion changed. The rooms felt smaller, the air heavier, the shadows longer. The servants began to resign without explanation. A cook was found in a catatonic state, murmuring in Latin, a language she had never learned. Thomas stopped speaking. He only drew strange symbols and kept repeating the same phrase, "The thing in the basement no longer sleeps." Everything reached a climax on a moonless night. An inhuman scream woke the family. The doors slammed shut. The windows were covered in frost, as if winter had exploded from within. The lights went out. The fireplace flames extinguished instantly, and the mirrors began to crack, reflecting a tall, black, faceless figure that moved unnaturally. Lady Margaret prayed. Alistair held the book as if trying to understand what he had unleashed. The walls groaned as if alive. The paintings fell, the clocks shattered, and then laughter, a guttural alien laugh coming from the basement. Alistair, still skeptical but terrified, descended into the basement with the grimoire in hand. No one knows exactly what happened down there. The only certainty is that he never came back up. When the family found him, he was standing silently, facing a wall with the book open. He wasn't breathing. He wasn't blinking. He seemed empty. And then, without warning, he collapsed, dead, but with an expression impossible to describe, as if he had seen what lies behind the veil of reality. Margaret took her children and fled. The mansion was sealed by order of the local bishop. The walls were reinforced. The basement entrances were closed off, and the book was returned to the attic, chained and covered with containment symbols that barely held back its influence. No one ever lived in the mansion again. For decades, the property was known as the House of Whispers. Villagers avoided it. Animals refused to cross its grounds. And the few brave souls who entered either went mad or disappeared. Years later, in an interview with a local newspaper, Helen Ravenscroft, now an adult, said, "My father didn't die of a heart attack. The book drained him. It stole everything he was. I still dream about it. Sometimes I'm back in the house. The book calls me by my name." If this journey captivated you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and activate the bell, because this is just the beginning. In the next videos, I'll tell you about the secret rituals hidden within the book, more disappearances from the 19th century, and the truth behind the experiments that the Vatican never wanted to reveal.